Today, we're looking at Noodler's Habanero. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Noodler's Habanero is a red ink, and to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Nemesign Singularity with a fine nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this very salmony color across the bottom, and it works up kind of pink. Then we start getting a bunch of yellows, and we see some of the oranges, and then a red across the top. I think this is what gives this habanero such great color while you're writing, and some of the shading. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what we see is basically the same thing. It just does not travel up as far. But now that salmony pink color on the bottom does seem to be a little bit darker. Now, resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. When we look at the highlighter, we see that it handles it very well. It doesn't seem to spread out at all. It stays as an extra fine, which to me makes this a great red ink to use in a note-taking situation. Water reactivates and lifts some of the darker tones off the paper, but not nearly as much as we've seen with a lot of other inks. Pen Flush does everything water does and a little bit more. It takes a bit more of the ink out, but not all of it. It looks like Flush might be what really does it, but there's still a lot left there. So when we look at bleach, what we see is it removes everything but that kind of salmony pink color that's still left behind. All that this means to me is that if Pen Flush is not enough, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly put some bleach through, quickly bring it out. It's a 1/3 bleach solution. Now, even with that, because there's some left behind, what I would do is I would try this out in one of my more inexpensive pens before I tried it in an expensive pen. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Habanero has a viscosity of 2. Just 2. It makes it a faster flowing ink. It's outside the realm of normal. It's closer to water, but it's still very close to normal. Now, to find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Habanero has an average dry time of 11 seconds, making it a faster drying ink. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade for that 1.1 that looks like another day I was having problems. And that's a medium. That's a medium. Ignore that whole 1.1 stuff. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It does give really lovely shading throughout. It's a very vibrant red. So some of the shading, while it stands, is then dark. So it goes vibrant and dark. And that's where we see that shading here. Vibrant in the middle of quick, dark on the left and right. Dark on the left side of the, vibrant on the right side of the. Vibrant at the beginning of Fox, dark on the end of Fox. It's a neat performing ink. 6 seconds to dry. Medium, same exact tones. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It looked like it went down very thin for a medium.
strange. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Plenty of beautiful shading, just like we got with the extra fine. Vibrant and dark reds all together. Very, very nice to look at. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us the vibrance on the left, the dark on the right, and that's exactly what we got in a writing sample, and I believe you could recover this if you smeared it. It's a Tomoe River. We have no bleeding. We do have ghosting. The 1.1, it's the vibrant red all the way through with no feathering, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shading. The extra fine stays with that vibrant red with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 10 seconds to dry. But the medium gave us that dark red. It's not showing as much on camera, but it's a darker red on camera. Now the medium gave no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. 22 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both are showing us a dark red, not the vibrant on the extra fine, and that probably is a matter of the inks going down heavier, so it gets the dark instead of the vibrant. The smear test, I don't know that you could recover it if you smeared it. So Rhodia. Rhodia has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Beautiful shading throughout this writing. Absolutely beautiful to look at. All over. Really dark, really vibrant. B has a vibrant on top, dark on bottom. Goes in that vibrant on A. Gets into dark at the end of N to E. Great to look at. Extra fine. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Shading's there. It's just kind of eh. It doesn't stand out. You have to look for it. The right side of the U in jumps is dark. The stem, the bottom of P in jumps is dark. The X is dark. You have to look for it. It's there. It just doesn't stand out. Now the medium is the exact same tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows us more color variation than we got in the writing sample. The scrubby of the medium shows us none. We got none. The smear test showed that we could probably recover it. I know I've seen people review this and their reviews look very different than what I got, but that's the good thing about doing something for yourself. The Inky Fingers notebook. The Inky Fingers notebook gave me no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade whatsoever. The extra fine had no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer some shading. We see it in quick. It starts darker. It's light in the middle, dark on the right. The starts dark and gets light. Seconds is the same tone as over, which is lighter than jumps. So it's nice. You do get it here, just not as much. But the Inky Fingers, I haven't always gotten as much of the shading. 6 seconds to dry. Medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do get some color variation. Again, the K in quick is darker. The, as a word, is darker than over. Lazy shows some shading throughout. It starts dark. It gets to that vibrant at the Y. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows us more color variation than I think we got. The scrubby of the medium shows us almost no color variation. We did get color variation, but the smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. North Books, which has been hit or miss for me if I remember it in its entirety. We had no real bleeding. Yes, we get some on the scrubby, but it's stupid thick there. No real bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It's neither vibrant or dark. It's dull. It's boring. Boring in a bad way. It's just red. Not boring as it's predictable. The extra fine, same exact tone that we got with the 1.1. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 1 second to dry. The medium gave the exact same tone, so that's where the boring part can be good. It's all the same tone. The medium gave no feather spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It also took 1 second to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows a little bit of color variation, left to right, far left to far right, looking at it. We had none. The medium shows us none. We had none. The smear test, of course you could recover it. It only took a second to dry. So I looked at Leuchtturm paper. It had no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Again, it's like it's dull. I think it's the tone of these papers, because this one and the North books, they're very similar in tone. They are slightly different, very similar in tone, but where with the white paper, we definitely get to have that. It's vibrant and it's dark, but not so much here. So the tone is affecting the how pleasing on the eye this ink is. The 1.1, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine, same exact tone. No, I'm sorry, slightly lighter tone. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. This took 4 seconds to dry. Darker tone with the medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows a lot more color variation. I mean, far left to far right. We got none in the writing. The medium shows none. We got none. The smear test, I don't think you could recover on this paper if you smeared while you were writing. And that's what I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Habanero, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I've chosen Private Reserve's Chocolate because it's a very nice, rich brown color. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. Now, what do I think of Noodler's Habanero? In wet, broader pens, I feel like it's losing a lot of the shading characteristics that can make this ink look so very nice. But in a drier, more fine pen, or even a drier stub, the shading comes out beautifully and it would look great. The thing is, I tend to use broader pens, and because of that, I don't tend to enjoy this ink as much. Personally, I'll stay with Apache Sunset over this one, even though that's an orange and this is a red. Thanks for watching.